Thank you very much for including your work. Okay, let's go take a look. So first thing, the background gradient. Is there a reason for it? And if so, let me know. What are is there a reasoning behind your color choice? If there's not, there should be. It's everything. Remember, the point of this assignment and what we've been progressing towards in this class is that a very firm understanding by designers that to understand that everything on a page should be there for a reason, and that reason should tie conceptually with your methodology, or it should tie very, very heavily to create harmony visually, okay? So I'd like to know the reasoning behind the gradient and the colors associated with the gradient. We're coming up pure black down here, and I think that that's a mistake because right now the contrast associated with the timeline is such that the bottom lines are really difficult to read as we approach the black gradient on the black type. The contrast is just reduced dramatically, so it's really difficult to read that timeline. As far as the rest of the type goes, I think we're looking pretty good. I've got a few recommendations for the type. Make sure that in your type you're using actually, you know what? I zoom in here. Actually, I don't have to zoom in. You can see what I'm looking at, right? So all of your numbers should be set in old style figures. If you have the OpenType capabilities associated with this typeface to include old style figures, please do so. If that doesn't exist, if that capability doesn't exist in this typeface, then be sure that you go in and reduce your numbers by about 20% or so. This isn't too bad at all. I mean, I'm almost thinking you may have already gone in here and reduced these, but let me know for sure, because in some areas it seems like the numbers are bigger in relationship. Actually, this is a different font here, so let me know. It's really difficult to tell, but at any rate, okay, so we've got Gemini in there. It looks like an extra space right there, but again, it could be just the PNG rendering, so let me know there as well. Okay, I want you to take some research, do some research and find out where is applicable to apply italics, okay, because I think that some of the proper names should be italicized. Okay, so I don't see any application of M dashes or N dashes, but if there are, make sure that you use your dashes appropriately, M dash, N dash, and hyphen. Also, if you have any application for small caps as opposed to all caps, as you are continue editing with this, make sure that you use small caps. Again, that's covered in the course materials, specifically in the announcements and those tutorials. So basically, we're looking for all caps, or small caps as opposed to all caps, old style numerals, and correct usage of M dash, N dash, and hyphen. Watch your regs. Regs need to be adjusted. Definitely, that angle right there is not considered. These regs are good. These need to be adjusted too. So again, in the course announcements, there is a tutorial regarding setting your regs. So we want to definitely set those regs. Good job with the space between. I'm glad you didn't indent. Remember, we don't do both. As far as the drop cap goes, it's not. Theoretically, it's not a drop cap. Right now, it's hanging off into the margin, and it's obstructing that beautiful left margin. My recommendation, I love the typeface. It's a decorative typeface, and I think it goes really, really well in this situation. I would definitely recommend dropping that cap instead of placing it, just changing the typeface, which means that you'll set the type normally, and then change the first letter to add that new font, and then go ahead and drop cap that new font. I would drop into the paragraph 2 or 3 lines. I'd say 3 lines, since that's such a beautiful letter form. I'd say 3 lines dropped. That would be fantastic. Okay, so if we take a look at this area right here, this is a little bit odd, right? It's too long for a caption. I would take this information here and add a 3rd paragraph, definitely, because this is just it points to compromised hierarchy based on the fact that the viewer doesn't know really if this is part of body copy or if it's a caption. It's too long to be a caption, but it's too small to be body copy. So it kind of sits in no man's land here. So we definitely want to address that. Again, watch your italicized words. See if it's appropriate to italicize these titles of the work that he's done. And then also we have that the application of old style numerals, or reduce the size of those numbers there. We got a lot of spelling errors. Let me just show you. Born, there's one there. Excuse me. Theory, That word, I'm BRPOW. I don't know what that is. Is that correct? Check that, definitely. Um, Among his there's a capital O there. That's a little odd. Yeah, and then watch your use of italics there. That's important. As far as the timeline goes, you got all of your types centered on your timeline, and we remember we want to avoid center alignment in typography, especially when we're studying typography as students. There will come a time and place in your professional career where you might elect to use um, center aligned type, but it's why I just think it's so important for students to understand how to develop negative space associated with typography. Therefore, I recommend all students stay away from center aligned type at all costs. So I would like to see that in some other format than center aligned. The typeface itself is, I'm sorry, the timeline itself is not a timeline. A timeline should be designed, right? It should be a designed artifact. It should be a designed graphic. If it's not a designed graphic, it's not a timeline. It's just a chronological listing of events. And that's what we have here. We don't have a design timeline. I highly, highly recommend you design a timeline. You don't want, by the way, you're starting with born. Oh, by the way, there's another spelling error right there. You start with born, but you end with retired. Wouldn't it make sense if you're going to start with born, you end with death? To me, that would make sense. So that's up to you, though. Okay, technically, these are widows. You, at all costs, want to avoid any word sitting on a line alone. Okay, so for example, here, oh, by the way, states should be capitalized right there. So an example here would be Polytech Science, and then drop that into the next line, in Zerks or Zerks, not sitting on a line alone. And then you'd have to figure out the same thing here. I don't know how you want to do that. Okay, other than that, I think we've got a very high degree of monochromatic going on here. So I would employ color here. I can't remember exactly what the front of your poster composition is, but we'll be checking the front and the back as one of our final checkpoints. So I think this piece is begging for color. So with the color you used on the front, maybe consider how to continue it on the back. All right. Those are my recommendations. If you have any questions or if I can make any clarifications whatsoever, please let me know. All right, great. Thank you very much, Donna.